Representative Poston, thanks for joining us.
Betcha. Glad to be here.
So 2020 will be your 4th year here at the House.
Yes.
What has the experience been like for you since you were first elected in 2016?
Well, what I tell constituents when they ask me about this job is that it's a real education. You come down here and the first thing you do is become a student. And you need to learn an awful lot, and you need to figure out who you can align yourself with and who you can work with, and then how things work. So it's been a real education for 3 years, and it takes a couple of those years just to get comfortable.
Tell us about Lakeshore. You call Lakeshore your home. How many shores are we actually talking about? There are a lot of lakes there. I've never been there. So
Lakeshore is properly named. County Road 77 runs through Lakeshore, and basically on each side of County Road 77, all the way through the city of Lakeshore is lakes. Sure. And that's why it's named Lakeshore. There's no traditional downtown area. It's just, County Road 77, resorts, some restaurants and some bars and things. Of course, the two most familiar places in our town are Bar Harbor, which most people in Minnesota have heard of, and Sherwood Forest Lodge.
And how did a person born in Minneapolis wind up in Lakeshore?
Well, I spent all of my childhood really up in the lakes area. Like so many other people, we had a cabin up north over in the Aiken area. And so I always knew growing up as a kid that when I had the chance to retire, I would come back to this area. And that's what I did. I retired a little bit young in my 50s. I was blessed and able to, and I came home to care for my parents, who were both not doing well and coming towards the end of their life. So I was living in the UK, decided it was time to retire and come home and take care of mom and dad, and landed back in Lakeshore like I knew someday I would.
I think the last time we chatted, and just before we went on camera here, we were talking about this. You had a proposal that was aiming to reduce livestock and wolf conflicts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I got to ask you about that. Is that still an issue? And I mean, actual timber wolves, right?
Yeah. Actual timber wolves becoming a bigger issue than it was when we talked before. The population is growing. The wolf population is moving south, so it's getting closer and closer to the metro area sightings and things. But in my neck of the woods, which is southern Cass County, Todd and Wadena County, we actually have wolf packs that are seen periodically. We've had a lot of wolf kills. If you're a beef guy, it's a big problem. Right. They're losing calves. In some cases, they're losing full-size animals. So it's a problem. The bill that you're talking about appropriated, believe it or not, donkeys. Is one of the things, to deter wolves, and evidently wolves are scared to death of donkeys. and we tried strobe lights and horns and all kinds of things that didn't work, but the donkeys seem to. And it's kind of funny, when I was a kid, my Aunt Myrtle had a little dairy farm up by Aiken, and she had a donkey, and we always thought it was her pet.
Sure.
Because it didn't really have any purpose. You didn't ride it like
Why
a
else
horse.
would you have a donkey?
You did, and I never knew. Well, now, after I've been educated years later, I know why Aunt Myrtle had the donkey, to keep the wolves away from her dairy herd.
What other issues are important to constituents in your district?
Well, like everywhere in Minnesota right now, I think, healthcare is a big issue. And that we're going to have to continue to work on and improve. This is a bonding year, so we do have some bonding projects that we're working on in the district that are important. Most of my constituents would very much like to see the bonding bill be infrastructure work more than anything else. So we do have a couple of bonding projects that are infrastructure. Highway 10 running through Wadena, taking it from 2 lanes to 4. It's the only stretch of Highway 10 left in the state that's still at 2 lanes and not 4. We're working on a solid waste project in Todd County, which again is another good infrastructure bill. And we have kind of a unique bonding project in Staples. Turns out, and I didn't know about this until about a year ago, we have an opera house in Staples that's over 100 years old.
Whereabouts? I've driven through Staples.
Well,
I've never.
You'd never know unless you see a big building that says Batchers on it. It used to be a department store.
Really?
But above the department store is this opera house. And it's absolutely incredible. You walk up there and you open the doors to it. It's something you'd never expect to be there. And it's one of only a few left in the country. And of the ones that are left in the country, it's one of the only ones that can be actually restored. There at one time, believe it or not, there were 4 or 5 opera houses in Staples.
In Staples.
And it all goes along with the railroad.
Yeah.
Because the railroad stopped, and then they rebuilt trains, so to speak, in Staples. And while they were doing that, people that were on the train needed to be entertained. So there were hotels, there were these opera houses to keep people entertained while they were in Staples.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's an interesting project, and it's one that the community is really behind. All of our big businesses in Staples are supporting it. We've had a couple of visits. The Senate bonding tour or a capital investment tour came. Myron France came, and at both of those occasions, several hundred people in Staples showed up to greet them and to talk to them about this opera house and tell their stories about how, I went to prom here. I used to roller skate here. The circus was here once. And, to be honest with you, it's just something you don't expect in Staples. So unexpected that the Star Tribune actually just recently came up and wrote a story about it.
And sticking with bonding, what do you think makes sense for an overall number for a potential bonding bill?
Well, I've heard a lot of numbers thrown around. I think the governor is at $2 billion. I think when I talked to some of my colleagues over in the Senate, that they're looking more in that $1 billion range. I hope that there's a bonding bill that maybe is somewhere in between that, and some of the bonding bill is borrowed and some of it is cash, because we do have this surplus or overtaxation amount, and hopefully we can use some of that cash to do some of these things.
And just finally, when the 2020 session concludes, what will need to happen for you to view it as a success?
Well, I think if we can come out of it with a successful bonding bill that helps the state, because a bonding bill can, not only do good things for infrastructure projects, but it can create a lot of jobs. That's really important. And, I'm sure that we're going to have, a lot of conversation about supplemental budget. If we can, supplemental budgets are meant to be in the non-budget year, and they're meant to be for emergency needs, if you will. And if we can get some good things done there, because we do have some issues in the state that we need to address with some finances, that would be a big win. And if we can go through this session and not look an awful lot like last session, that'll be good too. Because we spent a lot of time in our budget year working on policy, and then we threw most of that policy overboard at the end and finished the budget. So hopefully we just don't go back through all of that policy again.